Hi, everyone. Welcome again to the Adventures Travel Club television show. Betty, where are we?
We are actually here in Florence.
That's right.
And it looks like we're coming in the back door.
Well, as you can see, in almost all of Europe now, buses are only allowed to go into certain areas. And I think it's very good because the way that they are trying to control the traffic, and especially in Italy, where you have so much traffic. But, this is going to be a great show. This is going to be an exciting one. We have a guide who is really fantastic, and I really hope that you'll listen to her very carefully because she has so much information to give us. And I know that you're going to learn a lot. I know I've been there before. I know Betty's been there before, but we even learned more this time. So let's give a listen.
The bishop's seat or chair, that's the symbol of authority. The name of our Duomo is Santa Maria del Fiore, Saint Mary of the Flower. The emblem of Florence is a flower, a beautiful purple iris. Look at the size of the church. It rates as the second largest in Italy, next to St. Peter's in Rome. The third largest in the world, next to St. Peter's in Rome and St. Paul's in London. And as you notice, it is entirely encrusted with white, green and red marble. Nothing to do with our flag. We have exactly the same colors. I tell you, they are the symbols of the three virtues: faith, hope, and charity. White, symbol of charity. Green, of hope. Red, of faith. Have you seen the decoration all around the windows? It looks like lace work made out of marble. It is roughly 250 feet high. And the bells are still very powerful, believe me. These are the famous East doors, known as the Gates of Paradise. Thanks to whom they are still known as the Gates of Paradise? Thanks to Michelangelo. But the doors were made by Lorenzo Ghiberti. I spell the name for you, Ghiberti. He spent, and time didn't mean anything in the past, 27 years, 27, in order to make the 10 panels where he represented episodes from the Old Testament. I have a surprise for you. You're not looking at the real doors. They are not the original ones. You're looking at a copy, because the original ones were removed 12 years ago. They needed an accurate restoration. You may wonder why. We had the flood in 1966. Terrible tragedy. They had been severely damaged. So when there was the money for restoring them 12 years ago, they took care of the doors. But, they are not exhibited again outside. They are in the museum, the Duomo Museum. You know where the best copy of these doors is located? You should know. It's in your country. Pardon?
Grace Cathedral, San Francisco.
Bravis. Oh, you are from San Francisco? Oh.
Padre.
I see. That's right. Oh, I see. I was going to say because it's most unusual. Many people tell me Smithsonian museums. No. In the Signoria Square. I spell the name for you Signoria, from the word Signore, which means Lord. And the name to the square comes from the building in front of you, which is our city hall. It was originally the seat of the government. And, it was built, this is why it looks like a fort, it was built in 1299. No wonder why it looks so medieval. It is a medieval building. But, it has another name. The name of the building is Palazzo Vecchio, the Old Palace. Don't believe because it was built in 1299 for another good reason. It became the residence of the Medici family in the 16th century. And I take for granted, that the Medici family had been ruling here, was ruling here for several centuries. Well, it was the residence of the Medici for 10 years. When the Medici family bought another beautiful palace, Pitti Palace, P-I-T-T-I, which is on the other side of the river Arno, the people here named that building Vecchio, because the Medici moved to the new residence. So this one here became the old palace of the Medici. You see, it looks like a museum in the open air. Pardon me. You see, well, looking in front of us, there is the equestrian monument to Cosimo, the first Medici. You know by whom is it? By an artist you know now, Gian Bologna, the Flemish sculptor. And you remember I told you he was an expert in bronze. What you see here is an equestrian monument in bronze. You see the fountain of Neptune. That statue was not exactly appreciated by the people of Florence. It gave rise to a funny epigram. It says, "Ammannato, ammannato, what a beautiful marble you have wasted." Can you imagine why they didn't like it? Because they could compare Neptune to the original David. And the original David is where you see the copy. A copy which was made at the beginning of the 20th century. To the right, you remember when I said that something heavy was thrown from the top of the Palazzo Vecchio? I was thinking of this building, and that's why the arm was broken. To the right of David, you see the huge group, and that's original, Hercules and Cacus, by Bandinelli. Poor man, he was a contemporary of Michelangelo. Imagine how he felt knowing that his group was going to be placed on the right-hand side of the original David by Michelangelo. In order to be more or less at the same level as Michelangelo's statue, look what he did. He has emphasized to such a tremendous extent the muscles in the body of Hercules. They are rather ridiculous because they're not at all natural. You know, it becomes that group is only decorative, not much more. And for your information, you see the building with those many windows, many columns, is the Uffizi Gallery, the famous museum where we have Botticelli's Primavera, the birth of Venus, Michelangelo's only painting in Florence, the Holy Family, where we have the only paintings by Leonardo da Vinci, the Adoration of the Magi and the Annunciation, plus Titian's Venus, which is absolutely a masterpiece. You see, the building with the three arches is what we call in Italian loggia, L-O-G-G-I-A. It means open gallery. It was built to the end of the 13th century, and it has been decorated with lovely statues. Did I promise I was going to show you the other Rape of the Sabine Women? You see it? Under the third arch. You see? The three twisted figures. Exactly the same one as the one I have shown you inside the Academy. But the other one was in plaster, and this is in Carrara marble. Behind it, there is another group by Gian Bologna, representing Hercules fighting against the centaur. But the masterpiece in the square, no doubt, is the bronze figure under the first arch. No, of the loggia. I'm going to show you here something, and I'm going to tell you something very important. See the flowers? In Italian we call it infiorita, because we put flowers on the spot where the famous Dominican monk Girolamo Savonarola. Does the name sound familiar? No? He was a contemporary of Michelangelo, of Botticelli, of Leonardo da Vinci. You know, he was a reformer. What did he do? He preached inside the Duomo and in other churches in Florence against the corruption of the people of Florence, their immorality. You know, he preached against the Medici family. then ruling here. Imagine how dangerous it was. And you know against whom? Against the Borgia Pope, Alexander VI, Rodrigo Borja from Valencia, the Pope actually who bought the title for becoming Pope, the man who bought the title for being Pope. You know what happened to the monk? He became the chief of the government in Florence. He, in other words, was disturbing too many people. And he was eliminated very quickly. Unfortunately, that poor man was even tortured, kept as a prisoner in a cell of the tower of the Palazzo Vecchio. And you know, he was condemned, because they had to find something to condemn him, as a heretic. As a heretic, we all know, he was supposed to be burned alive. In Florence, they decided to be less cruel. They hanged him first and burned him afterwards, exactly here. On the 23rd of May, 1498. What was the date yesterday?
23rd.
Exactly. There was a splendid ceremony. I was here, so I can tell you, it was absolutely beautiful. Dominican monks against the facade of the palace. You know, there was a concert, sacred music, Renaissance music. There were costumes, Renaissance costumes of girls and boys just walking all around the square. Trumpets, beautiful, a splendid parade in honor of Savonarola. And the monks all around with members of our municipality actually put those roses on the spot where he died.
Well, it's time for a little picture taking. Betty, who we have over here?
That's Lucy Silviero, who comes with me on many, many trips. Hi, I hope you had a good time, Lucy.
Hey, we're going to go to another church right now, Santa Croce, and we're going to learn about this too. Very, very interesting, and also about the flood that took place, as you remember, in Florence.
Because they opened the gates of a dam. Now you have the explanation. There was no warning at all.
Why did they open the gate?
Because instead of doing that, that's right, instead of doing that gradually, they did it when it was too late. And of course it was too late for us as well. Can you imagine, not only Florence was flooded, even Pisa. You know what a territory it is. It was dreadful. Just to give you an idea, look at the building where it looks clean. Actually, it was, and you will see the watermark even inside the church. And you know, when the water receded, I don't tell you what was left. You imagine. That's right. And you know, 30 years after the flood, 1996, the mud angels, as we call them, came back to Florence. You know, all the students from the American universities, from South America, from Europe, from all over the world, from Australia, came back, of course, much older, 30 years later, and they were just rewarded by our mayor in the Palazzo Vecchio. So they have a splendid florin, gold florin. I was young then too. That's right. But you know how many books were damaged? More than 2 million. More than 2 million. And I'm not talking of any book, I'm talking of the ancient manuscripts. Without mentioning the works of art, you may have read about the crucifix by Cimabue. Cimabue? No? A splendid crucifix, which was marking at the beginning of Italian art history. Imagine, it was in water and oil for 3 days and 2 nights. The building you see here is a gorgeous palace which belonged to a very wealthy family in Florence. The name was Antellesi, and we call it Antellesi Palace. They wanted to have the facade of their palace decorated, you know, by how many painters? exactly 12 painters in 20 days were able to decorate the facade. 20 days. But, you know, in the 17th century, being exposed to the action of the weather, you see the result. The lower part has been damaged, it has been restored several times, but the only part that we can still appreciate, and it was really beautiful, look at the color, is the one protected by the roof.
Betty, this area was so interesting. And we look here on the facade of the church, and you see a Star of David on the outside, you know, with the cross.
With IHS inside.
You know why the Star of David?
Incredible. Because a Jewish gentleman donated the money to...
He was the architect or the builder.
Oh, was he the builder?
Yeah, he was
I was
builder,
thinking
right,
it was
yeah.
someone that
No,
donated
he was an
money
important
to help
person.
build it.
Yeah.
Oh,
So anyway, they
yes.
incorporated both things. But
Wonderful.
anyway, we're inside the church right now, and it is really quite beautiful. Again, we're going to give you just a little bit of some of the highlights of what our guide had to tell us, because there's some very important people that are buried here in this church, you know. And one of them we all know, and that's Michelangelo. And we looked all over for his tomb, and you know what? You're not going to find it, because he's buried anonymously in the floor. But let's listen to her.
The reason why we have the tombs of some of the greatest Italian men. You know, a poet named this building the Temple of the Italian Glories, Il Tempio delle Itale Glorie, and it is in this way. Now, I have told you about the tomb of Galileo. You know Galileo? I'm not going to talk of him, don't worry, as an astronomer, as a mathematician, because you know many things. I tell you a coincidence, and I ask you to pay attention because it's interesting. He was born in Pisa. You know when? 1564. The date doesn't mean anything. It does if I tell you that's the year in which Michelangelo died. That's the year in which William Shakespeare was born. You know, one genius died and two were born. And Galileo died completely blind here in Florence in 1642. Again, the date doesn't mean anything. It does if I say that's the year in which Isaac Newton was born. And how do you like it? I do. Because I remember having studied that Galileo was the first scientist interested in the law of gravity. Who completed it? Isaac Newton. So you see, it's the continuation of genius in different countries, in different periods. We have also the tomb of Lorenzo Ghiberti. I think the name sounds familiar now. He was the artist who made the Gates of Paradise, the original ones. We have seen the copy, but you remember I told you that the artist was Lorenzo Ghiberti. He is buried with his son. And we have, plus the tomb, besides the tomb of Rossini here, the famous composer, the musician. He was not born in Florence. He lived in Florence for 3 years, and later he went to Paris, where he died. Was buried in Paris for a very short time, because his remains were sent, thanks to his wife, back to Italy. And the town chosen for having his tomb was Florence. And here we have his tomb. You know how many operas did he compose? I'm not going to mention them all, because I don't remember all the titles. 105. Last thing I tell you, the tomb of Michelangelo. I have pointed out the monument to him, and I told you it's only a monument. The tomb is in the crypt underneath the floor. It's an anonymous tomb. Would you like to know why? Because Michelangelo did not die here. Died in Roma at the age of 89. Was buried in Rome in a church of Roma. But he had written his spiritual will. And if you do not mind, and we're going to go out in a few minutes, I tell you his writing. He says, I offer my soul to God, my body to the earth, my money to the family, my remains to Fiorenza. Do you know what did his nephew and his friends do? In order to respect the desire of Michelangelo, of being buried here, went into the church where he was buried. I'm not telling you a story, it's the pure truth. Stole his remains, sent them secretly as a bale of merchandise. You know why as a bale of merchandise? Because Italy then was divided into so many states. It was very difficult to pass through the customs. And you know, he had a very important funeral, thanks to the Medici family, in the church of the Medici, San Lorenzo. But he is buried here without any name.
So, Betty, we see now the outside of Santa Croce Church, and it is really beautiful. The facade, it looks more like the cathedral that we see, which is not too terribly far away from here because we walked from one place to the other.
I don't remember exactly what the like. They look like windows. Of course, they're not. What was that church made of? What material?
Stone.
All stone, but it looked like blocks of maybe granite or something.
Sure.
I
Well,
don't
it probably,
know what it was.
yeah, probably
Okay.
was. Yeah, and we see the design on the bell tower again. This is more in the main square, and the statue that we just saw a little bit ago was a statue of Dante, and I love these.
When did you post for that?
Long time ago.
That was your first time over there?
You know, those gargoyles are really, I didn't know what the heck that they were, but they had a great use. They were the downspouts or the water spouts to drain the water off those roofs.
I would think that's what you do when you have a sore throat, you gargoyle. With salt water.
With salt water, right. Well, anyway, we have gone to another church right now, and this one, we actually had a Father Blessing celebrated Mass here, but we had a very special occasion. And there's so many beautiful churches, of course, in Italy. It's just everywhere you look, and these beautiful stained glass windows is wonderful. But Betty, tell us what the special occasion was.
Oh, we had an anniversary that we celebrated with Rita and Ray Dolio. They live in Madeira.
Right.
Travel with us a lot, and I actually think they renewed their marriage vows when we were at Cana also.
Did they really?
Yes.
Well, that's great.
So
they got a chance to do it again here, too.
So I think they feel they're really married,
They're really married, right.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful.
And it was nice. I just love this, and I'll have to send her a tape and let her see her wedding again.
Her vows again. It was very nice, and everybody really enjoyed this, too. And that's a nice thing, too, when we have the clergy with us and somebody has an anniversary like that. It makes it just so extra special.
Well, we had a party. Remember, we drank a happy birthday to them and happy anniversary to them. Yeah,
and we had a few birthday parties as well on this particular trip as well. So it was just really wonderful. So anyway, if you want to do that on one of our trips, we'd be happy to do that for you, huh?
Yeah, why not?
Sure.
We did a cruise. I always had everybody have a birthday, even though it wasn't because because you got a cake with the candles on. So we all celebrated birthdays.
Does that, yeah. Anyway, we're back downtown again, and the building on the left is the town hall, as you can see, and now, of course, the famous gallery that we're seeing over here. And what I took these pictures because there were a lot of beautiful statues there, but also the street performers that were here.
Oh, they're incredible.
Wonderful.
They're mimes. And you have to look a long time because you do think they are a statue.
We saw this all over, everywhere that we went. There were mimes, and a lot of people did think that they were statues until all of a sudden, bingo, they moved
it's
or
so
something.
Startling when they move. We went someplace. Was it here in Florence, where Beverly and a bunch of them had their picture taken sitting on the mime's lap? You would have photographed it, but I don't know. I don't remember. It wasn't here, though. Okay.
I don't remember. I probably didn't see that.
You gave them a donation, and then you could be with the mime.
Well, I saw a couple of people give. Some of the girls gave a donation, and the mimes gave him a kiss.
Yeah.
So, and I think this guy was getting his picture taken here with a laurel wreath on his head. So, as you can see, lots and lots of tourists, but also lots and lots of artists that were here.
I love watching. Mm-hmm. You could spend days and days just going from one church or one building to the other, and watch these magnificent artists at their work right where they should be in Florence.
That's exactly right. That's what the city is known for. It is a beautiful, beautiful city, and I'd like to go back again. The view from here, of course, is on the other side of the river that I wanted to take a picture of. And as you see, we're going to also see in a moment this beautiful, beautiful bridge that I thought was so interesting. I walked down here from our hotel at night, but everything was all closed up. And Betty, they had these exciting, I say exciting because I like the woodwork and the iron, covers that covered all of the little shop windows, because
like
on
shutters.
the bridge there are shops.
Yeah,
yes,
and
that's
right.
So then the next day when we had the opportunity to walk across there along with all the other tourists that were in Florence at the time, we could see that most of those were open, and a lot of them, I can see now why they were so secure, is because there was a lot of gold inside of those shops.
I was going to say, this is the bridge where they have all the gold shops, and you have such a tremendous selection. It's all 20-karat gold. Wonderful, wonderful buy. I had
Did you buy some stuff there?
No, my grandson went here for 1 year to the University of Gonzaga University.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so this is a place that he has really fallen in love with. Well, of course, if you're there for a year, well, I guess it's 9 months. Then he stayed for the year, but. What a great place to be able to go and get educated.
Oh, I should say. I was fascinated by these guys here. Do you call this sculling? Is that right?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, that one's not. That's a
that's
kayak
paddling.
right there.
He's paddling.
He's paddling, yeah, but the other ones are the...
Oh, you mean when they sit in and a whole bunch of them, like we saw in England much of that for the races.
Right,
yeah.
Anyway, they had that, and then they were also playing soccer over there on the side, so everything was put to good use. Now, here we are on the bridge, and like Betty said, you can see these gold shops, and they're just everywhere, but the architecture was absolutely fabulous, I thought, on this.
I was a great looker that day.
You're not a buyer.
I was not a buyer. I was a looker, and it is fun.
See, now that's what they cover him with at night. Evidently, this guy was taking a day off, so he didn't have his shop open.
And great artistry, you see. It isn't just slamming something in front of it. It's
not
well
at all.
thought out.
Oh, these were great.
And the treasure chest, because behind them is the treasure, right?
That's for sure, and you can see it right there. And you see how they open some of these. They just have they've got a hook, see right there, that comes down from up above.
Yeah,
so they just open that thing and then hook it right there, and that's a pretty simple way to do it, isn't it?
Is that called Ponte Vecchia? Is that
bridge?
I think it might be. When you see so many and do so much, it's hard to actually place them.
I'm really not sure. Hey, that's all the time we have, but Betty has trips coming up, so if you want to go on one of them, give her a call at
488-7443.
And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.